7 years ago, the end of everything. The courtroom was cold. Not the physical cold of a poorly heated building, but the emotional cold of a place where families came to die. Clara sat at the petitioner's table, her hands folded in her lap, her knuckles white. Beside her, her attorney, a tired, overworked public defender named Gerald, shuffled papers and avoided eye contact. Across the aisle, Richard Barrington III sat flanked by 3 lawyers in suits that cost more than Clara's entire wardrobe. He was smiling. Not a kind smile. The smile of a man who had already won. The judge, a balding man with wire-rimmed glasses, read from a document without looking up. The court finds that the mother, Clara Mitchell, is not unfit. However, given the father's superior financial resources, established residence, and ability to provide educational opportunities, the court grants sole physical custody to the father, Richard Barrington III. The mother is granted supervised visitation to be arranged at the father's discretion. Clara's heart stopped. Supervised visitation meant nothing when the father had discretion to arrange it. She knew, even then, that Richard would never let her see Leo again. Not because she was a danger, not because she was unfit, because he could, because he had the money and the lawyers and the cold, calculating cruelty to use them. Furthermore, the judge continued, the father's motion to relocate to the state of Oregon is granted. The mother may file a motion for modified custody upon establishing residency within the same state. Oregon. Richard had no family in Oregon. He had no job in Oregon. He was moving to Oregon because it was as far away from Clara as he could get without leaving the country. He was taking her 7-year-old son to a place where she had no friends, no support system, no way to follow. Clara stood up, her chair scraping against the floor. Your Honor, please. Ms. Mitchell, you have been heard. The judge's voice was final. Court is adjourned. Richard walked past her on his way out, his smile widening. Don't worry, Clara. I'll take good care of him. Better than you ever could. She didn't remember leaving the courtroom. She didn't remember the drive home. She only remembered collapsing on her bed, her face buried in a pillow that still smelled like Leo's shampoo, and screaming until her throat was raw. The goodbye she never got. The last time Clara saw Leo was at the airport. Richard had allowed it, not out of kindness, but because the court had ordered one final visit before the relocation. Clara arrived 2 hours early, clutching a stuffed elephant that Leo had loved since infancy. She had bought him new pajamas, a box of crayons, and a sketchbook. She had written him a letter which she planned to read to him when they said goodbye. Leo was 7 years old. He had his father's blue eyes and his mother's smile. He was small for his age, with messy brown hair and a gap in his front teeth. When he saw Clara at the security checkpoint, he broke into a run and threw his arms around her legs. Mommy, why are you crying? Clara knelt down, wrapping her arms around him. I'm not crying, sweetheart. I just have something in my eye. You're a bad liar, Leo said, and she laughed through her tears. They sat on a bench near the gate, sharing a bag of pretzels. Clara read him a story. Not the letter. She couldn't bring herself to read that, but a silly picture book about a bear who couldn't find his hat. Leo laughed at the funny parts and asked serious questions about the moral implications of the bear's theft. You're too smart for your own good, Clara said, ruffling his hair. I know, Leo said. Daddy says I get it from him. Richard appeared 15 minutes before boarding, holding 2 first-class tickets and a leather briefcase. He didn't sit with them. He stood 10 feet away, scrolling through his phone, occasionally glancing at his watch. The message was clear. This is not a reunion. This is a formality. When the boarding call came, Leo hugged Clara tightly. I'll call you every day, Mommy. Daddy promised. Clara looked at Richard. He didn't meet her eyes. Every day, she repeated. I'll be waiting. Leo walked away, clutching the stuffed elephant in one hand and his father's hand in the other. He turned back once, waving. Clara waved back, her smile frozen on her face. Then he disappeared through the gate, and she was alone. That was the last time she saw him for 7 years. The first month, Clara called every day. Richard had given her a phone number, a Google Voice number that went straight to voicemail. She left messages, sweet messages, silly messages, messages about her day, about the weather, about the new puppy she had adopted to keep herself company. Bubby, it's Mommy. I hope you had a good day at school. I saw a rainbow on the way home, and I thought of you. I love you. Call me when you can. No response. She sent letters. Long, handwritten letters on pretty stationery, filled with drawings and stickers and jokes. She sent them to Richard's new address in Oregon, certified mail, return receipt requested. The receipts came back signed by Richard, not by Leo. She sent birthday gifts, a new bicycle, a telescope, a collection of science experiment kits. Each gift was returned, unopened, with a form letter from Richard's attorney. Mr. Barrington has determined that this gift is not in the child's best interest. Please cease all further unsolicited deliveries. She sent Christmas presents, a handmade quilt, a photo album of their time together, a letter explaining, in simple words, that she loved him more than anything in the world. All returned, all unopened. The second month, she tried to call the school. The principal was polite but firm. "I'm sorry, Ms. Mitchell, but we have a court order on file. You are not authorized to speak with Leo or to visit the school grounds. Any attempt to do so will be reported to the police." The third month, she hired a lawyer, a real one this time, using money borrowed from her brother. The lawyer filed a motion to enforce visitation. Richard's lawyers filed a motion to dismiss, arguing that Clara was unstable and a threat to the child's emotional well-being. The judge agreed. Clara's motion was denied. The sixth month, Clara drove to Oregon. She had saved every penny, taken a week off work, and driven 36 hours across 3 states. She found Leo's school, a private academy with a wrought iron gate and a security guard. She waited across the street, her heart pounding, hoping to catch a glimpse of her son. The security guard approached her car within 10 minutes. "Ma'am, you need to move along. This is private property. I'm just waiting. I'm not bothering anyone. We've been notified that a woman matching your description might attempt to contact a student. If you don't leave, I'm calling the police." Clara drove away. She sat in a parking lot 3 miles from the school and cried until she couldn't cry anymore. Then she drove home. That was the last time she tried. Leo grew up believing he was abandoned. Richard was careful. He didn't scream or rage or tell lies that could be easily disproven. He was subtle. He was patient. He planted seeds in Leo's young mind and watered them with daily repetition until they grew into twisted, unshakable beliefs. Your mother chose her career over you. That's why she's not here. She moved away because she didn't want the responsibility of raising a child. If she really loved you, she would have fought harder. She would have found a way. Some people just aren't cut out to be parents. Your mother is one of them. Leo heard these things every day at breakfast in the car before bed. He heard them from his father's new girlfriend, from nannies and tutors who were paid to agree with whatever Richard said. The message was constant, consistent, inescapable. Your mother left you. She didn't want you. You were better off without her. At first, Leo defended her. He was 7, then 8, then 9. He remembered her smile. He remembered the bedtime stories. He remembered the way she smelled like vanilla and freshly baked bread. "Mommy didn't leave," he would say. "She calls me. She sends letters. Those letters are from my lawyer," Richard would reply. "She's trying to get money from us. That's all she ever wanted. But she loves me. If she loved you, she'd be here. She's not here, Leo. She chose to be somewhere else." That's the definition of abandonment. By the time Leo was 10, he had stopped defending her. By 11, he had stopped believing in her. By 12, he had started to hate her. It was a quiet hate, the kind that burrows into a child's heart like a splinter, festering and painful but invisible to the outside world. Leo didn't talk about his mother. He didn't ask questions about her. He simply erased her from his mental geography, as if she had never existed. Richard encouraged this. He removed every photo of Clara from the house. He stopped mentioning her name. When Leo asked, rarely, if his mother had ever tried to contact him, Richard would say, "She stopped trying years ago. She moved on. You should too." The letters continued. Clara never stopped writing. Every week, for 7 years, she sent a letter. She sent them to Richard's address, to his lawyer's address, to a post office box she had rented in Leo's name. She sent birthday cards, holiday cards, cards for no reason at all. She wrote about her life, her job, her garden, her dog. She wrote about Leo's life, imagining his soccer games, his science fairs, his first day of high school. She wrote about her love for him, which she promised would never fade, no matter how many letters went unanswered. Richard collected these letters. He didn't throw them away. He saved them in a box in his home office, along with the returned gifts and the certified mail receipts. Not out of sentiment, out of strategy. He wanted to control the narrative. He wanted to decide, someday, if Leo would ever see them, and he decided that Leo would not. The years pass. Leo grew into a tall, quiet teenager with his mother's smile and his father's cold eyes. He excelled in school, not because he was passionate, but because Richard demanded perfection. He played soccer, took piano lessons, and attended a prestigious private academy where the other children drove BMWs and talked about their summer homes in the Hamptons. He did not have close friends. He did not date. He kept people at a distance, just as his father had taught him. People left. People abandoned you. The only person you could trust was yourself. Richard remarried when Leo was 13, a woman named Vanessa, 20 years younger, with plastic surgery and a laugh that sounded like wind chimes. Vanessa tried to be a mother to Leo, but Leo rebuffed her. He didn't need a mother. He had survived just fine without one. Clara, meanwhile, rebuilt her life. It was slow, painful work. She changed jobs, moved to a smaller apartment, and threw herself into therapy. She learned to accept that she might never see Leo again. She learned to live with the grief, to carry it like a stone in her pocket, heavy but not crushing. She never stopped writing the letters. Every Sunday evening, she sat at her kitchen table and wrote to Leo. She told him about her week, the funny thing her dog did, the new recipes she tried, the books she couldn't put down. She told him about the past, memories of his first steps, his first words, the way he used to sing in the bathtub. She told him about the future, the hope that one day, somehow, they would find their way back to each other. She sealed each letter with a kiss, put it in an envelope, and mailed it to the post office box that Richard had never bothered to close. 7 years. 364 letters. Not a single reply. The breaking point. Leo was 14 when he found the box. It was a Sunday afternoon in late autumn. Richard and Vanessa had gone to a wine tasting in the next town, leaving Leo alone in the house. He was bored. He was restless. He wandered into his father's home office, a room he was usually forbidden to enter, and began opening drawers. The third drawer was locked, but the lock was cheap. Leo picked it with a paperclip, something he had learned from a YouTube video. Inside, he found a cardboard box, worn and yellowed, tied with twine. He pulled it out and opened it. Letters. Hundreds of letters, stacked in neat bundles, each bundle tied with a ribbon. The postmarks were from the same city, his mother's city. The return address was the same name, Clara Mitchell, his mother. Leo's hands trembled as he picked up the first letter. It was dated 7 years ago, 2 weeks after the move. The handwriting was elegant, feminine, slightly shaky, as if the writer had been crying. My dearest Leo, I miss you so much it feels like my heart is breaking into 1,000 pieces. I hope Oregon is beautiful. I hope your new school is wonderful. I hope you are making friends and eating your vegetables and brushing your teeth every night, even though you always hated the mini toothpaste. I'm writing you this letter because I want you to know, no matter what anyone says, that I love you. I have always loved you. I will always love you. Nothing, not distance, not time, not even the courts can change that. I know you're only 7, and some of these words might be hard to understand. But someday you'll be older, and you'll read this, and you'll know your mother never stopped fighting for you. Your mother never stopped wanting you. Your mother never stopped loving you. Be brave, my little lion. Be kind. Be curious. And never, ever forget that you are the best thing I ever did with my life. All my love, forever and always. Mommy. Leo read the letter twice. Then he read another, and another, and another. The letters told a story that his father had worked for 7 years to erase. They told of a mother who called every day only to reach voicemail. A mother who sent gifts only to have them returned. A mother who drove across 3 states only to be turned away by a security guard. A mother who wrote and wrote and wrote, even though she never received a single reply. The letters were not about money. They were not about revenge. They were about love, raw, desperate, enduring love. Leo sat on the floor of his father's office, surrounded by 7 years of proof that he had been lied to, and he wept. He wept for the mother he had been taught to hate. He wept for the boy who had believed the lies. He wept for the years they had lost, the birthdays and holidays, and ordinary Tuesday afternoons that could never be recovered. And when he was done weeping, he felt something else. Anger. Not at his mother, at his father. Richard had stolen his mother. Richard had lied to him. Richard had taken a boy who loved his mommy and turned him into a cold, guarded teenager who believed he was unworthy of love. Leo wiped his eyes, took a deep breath, and made a decision. He was going to find his mother. The ritual every Sunday evening. The kitchen table was small, a thrift store find with a scratched surface and one wobbly leg that Clara propped with a folded napkin. But it was hers. And every Sunday evening at precisely 7 o'clock, she sat there with a cup of chamomile tea, a stack of blank stationery, and a heart full of words that needed to be said. The first letter was the hardest. She wrote it 3 days after Leo left for Oregon, sitting in his empty bedroom, surrounded by the ghosts of stuffed animals and bedtime stories. Her handwriting shook. The paper was stained with tears, but she finished it, sealed it with a kiss, and walked it to the post office herself. My dearest Leo, she wrote, I miss you so much it feels like my heart is breaking into 1,000 pieces. I hope Oregon is beautiful. I hope your new school is wonderful. I hope you are making friends and eating your vegetables and brushing your teeth every night, even though you always hated the mini toothpaste. She mailed it certified mail, return receipt requested. She wanted to know that it arrived. She wanted to imagine Leo's small hands opening the envelope, his eyes lighting up at the sticker she had tucked inside, his voice calling out, Mommy wrote to me. The receipt came back signed by Richard Barrington III. Not by Leo. Never by Leo. But Clara didn't give up. She couldn't. Giving up would mean accepting that Leo was gone forever, and that was a truth she was not ready to face. The second year, 104 letters. By the end of the second year, Clara had written 104 letters, one for every week, one for every Sunday evening when the rest of the world was watching football or going out to dinner or living their ordinary, unbroken lives. She wrote about the small things, the new recipe she had tried, disaster, the puppy she had adopted, a golden retriever named Sunny. The promotion she had earned at work, not enough to afford a lawyer, but enough to keep the lights on. She wrote about the big things. The anniversary of the day Leo was born. She lit a candle and sang happy birthday to his photograph. The first day of school, she imagined him walking into a classroom with a backpack that was too heavy and shoes that were too big. The Christmas morning she spent alone, she bought him presents anyway, wrapped them in shiny paper, and stored them in a closet that was now overflowing with unopened gifts. She wrote about the memories, the way he used to sing in the bathtub, off-key, always off-key, the way he insisted on wearing his Superman costume to the grocery store, cape and all, the way he would crawl in her bed after a nightmare and whisper, "Mommy, stay with me until I fall asleep." She never wrote about anger. She never wrote about Richard. She never wrote about the court case or the custody battle or the years of legal fees that had drained her savings account. Those were adult problems, grown-up sorrows, and Leo was just a child. He didn't need to carry her burdens. He only needed to know that she loved him. And so she wrote, week after week, month after month, year after year. "Dear Leo, today I saw a rainbow on the way home from work, and I thought of you. Remember that time we tried to find the end of the rainbow in Grandma's backyard? You were convinced there was a pot of gold behind the old oak tree. We dug for hours. We never found the gold, but we found a roly-poly bug, and you named him Sir Reginald. I still have the jar we kept him in. It's on my bookshelf right next to your baby's shoes." She included small savings bonds in his birthday cards. Not much. $50 here, $100 there. Money she scraped together by skipping lunches, working overtime, selling clothes she no longer wore. She wanted Leo to have something when he turned 18, something that was just from her, something that Richard couldn't take away. She addressed every letter to Leo, care of Richard's address. She sent them certified mail because she needed proof that they had arrived. She needed to believe that somewhere, in some way, her words were reaching him. The receipts always came back, signed by Richard, never by Leo. Richard's home office was a monument to control. The walls were paneled in dark walnut, the floors covered in Persian rugs that had cost more than Clara's car. A mahogany desk faced the window, arranged so that Richard could see anyone who approached. Bookcases lined two walls, filled with leather-bound volumes that had never been read. And in the corner, next to the fireplace, stood a heavy oak cabinet. The cabinet was antique, Victorian, maybe or Edwardian. It had 4 drawers, each fitted with a brass lock. Richard kept the keys on a chain attached to his belt, hidden beneath his suit jacket. No one else had access. Not his new wife, Vanessa. Not the housekeeper. Not Leo, who had been told that the cabinet contained sensitive financial documents. Inside the cabinet, in neat, organized stacks, were Clara's letters. Every single one. 364 of them, as of the 7th anniversary of Leo's move. Each letter was still in its original envelope, still sealed with Clara's kiss, still bearing the certified mail receipt that Richard had signed. He had never opened them. He didn't need to. He knew what they said. He knew they were filled with love and longing and memories of a life he had worked so hard to erase. He knew that if Leo ever read them, the carefully constructed narrative of abandonment would crumble like sand. So he locked them away, not out of malice, or so he told himself. Out of protection. He was protecting Leo from false hope. He was protecting himself from Clara's persistent, inconvenient devotion. He was protecting the perfect world he had built, where he was the hero and Clara was the villain who had walked away. The letters were evidence, not of Richard's cruelty, but of Clara's love. And Richard could not allow that evidence to see the light of day. To the outside world, Richard Barrington III was a model parent. He attended Leo's school plays, sitting in the front row, applauding loudly. He coached Leo's soccer team, even though he knew nothing about soccer. He hosted lavish birthday parties at his sprawling Oregon estate, complete with bounce houses, magicians, and catered food. He posted photos on social media. Leo blowing out candles, Leo holding a trophy, Leo smiling in his private school uniform. The captions were always the same. "So proud of my boy. Single fatherhood isn't easy, but it's the most rewarding job I've ever had." Friends and neighbors commented with hearts and praise. "You're such an amazing dad, Richard. Leo is so lucky to have you. It takes a real man to raise a child on his own." No one knew about the letters. No one knew about the phone calls that went unanswered, the gifts that were returned, the court orders that had been twisted into weapons. No one knew that Clara existed at all, except as a ghost story Richard told when he wanted sympathy. His mother left when he was 7, Richard would say, shaking his head sadly. Just packed up and moved away. Chose her career over her own flesh and blood. Leo doesn't even ask about her anymore. He's better off, honestly. The lie was seamless. It was comfortable. It allowed Richard to be the hero of his own story, the devoted father who had sacrificed everything for his son. The truth, that he had used his wealth to steal custody, that he had blocked every attempt at contact, that he had locked 7 years of love letters in an oak cabinet, was buried so deep that even Richard had started to forget it. Almost 600 miles away, Clara lived a different kind of lie. To her co-workers, she was a competent, slightly reserved woman who kept to herself. To her neighbors, she was the friendly lady with the golden retriever who always waved hello. To her brother, she was a survivor, someone who had been through hell and was still standing, even if she limped. No one knew about the letters. No one knew about the Sundays spent writing, the certified mail receipts taped into a scrapbook, the closet full of unopened birthday presents. No one knew that she still slept on the left side of the bed because Leo used to crawl in beside her on weekend mornings, and she couldn't bear to move to the middle. She went to therapy every Tuesday. She took antidepressants that made her feel less like drowning and more like treading water. She worked a job she didn't love because it paid the bills and left her evenings free to write. She saved money. Every penny she could spare went into an account she called the Leo Fund. It wasn't much, a few $1,000s after 7 years, but it was something. It was hope. It was the promise that one day, when Leo turned 18 and Richard's legal control ended, she would hire the best lawyer in the state and fight for her son. Until then, she wrote, "Dear Leo, I'm saving up every penny to fight for you again in court one day. I don't know when that day will come, but it will come. And when it does, I will walk into that courtroom with my head held high, and I will tell the judge the truth, that I have never stopped loving you, that I have never stopped wanting you, that I have never stopped being your mother. You're the best thing I ever did with my life, Leo, and I will spend the rest of my life proving that to you, if that's what it takes." She sealed the letter with a kiss, walked it to the post office, and paid for certified mail. She watched the clerk stamp it and drop it into the bin, and she imagined it traveling across the country, landing in Richard's mailbox, being signed for by Richard's hand. She did not imagine it being locked in an oak cabinet. She could not allow herself to imagine that, because if she imagined that, if she truly accepted that her words were never reaching her son, she would have no reason to keep writing. And if she stopped writing, she would have no reason to keep living. The 7th year. By the 7th anniversary of Leo's move, Clara had written 364 letters. She had celebrated Leo's 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, and 14th birthdays alone, lighting candles and singing softly to his photograph. She had watched him grow up in her imagination, taller, quieter, more like his father with each passing year. She had mourned the loss of the little boy who used to sing in the bathtub, and she had tried to love the teenager she didn't know. The savings bonds and the birthday cards had accumulated. $50 here, $100 there. By Leo's 14th birthday, there was nearly $2,000 waiting for him in a government account, earning interest, growing slowly, proof that someone had been thinking of him all along. Clara had not remarried. She had not dated seriously. There had been a few attempts. A co-worker who asked her to dinner, a neighbor who offered to fix her porch, but nothing lasted. She was too broken, too preoccupied, too unwilling to let anyone else into the small, guarded space where she kept her love for Leo. Her brother, Jake, visited twice a year. He would sit at her kitchen table, drink her chamomile tea, and listen to her talk about the letters. He never told her to stop. He never suggested that she was wasting her time. He simply nodded, held her hand, and said, "He'll know the truth someday." They always do. Clara wanted to believe that. She needed to believe that. And so, she kept writing, "Dear Leo, today I was cleaning out the closet, and I found your old Superman costume. The cape is torn, and the emblem is peeling, but I can't throw it away. It still smells like you, like grass stains and bubblegum shampoo and little boy sweat. I remember the day you refused to take it off. We had to go to the grocery store, and you insisted on wearing the whole thing. Cape, mask, the works. People stared. You didn't care. You were Superman, and nothing could hurt you. I wish I could have been your Superman, Leo. I wish I could have protected you from all of this, from the courts and the lawyers and the miles and miles of silence. But I can't, so I'll just keep writing and hoping and loving you from here, forever and always. Mommy." She sealed the letter with a kiss. She walked to the post office. She paid for certified mail. And somewhere in Oregon, Richard signed for the envelope, carried it to his home office, unlocked the oak cabinet, and added it to the stack. 365 letters, 7 years, 1 locked cabinet. The truth was buried, but not forever. Leo's 14th birthday, the extravaganza. The Barrington estate was transformed. String lights draped from every tree, casting a warm golden glow over the sprawling backyard. A professional catering team had set up stations, a sushi bar, a carving station, a chocolate fountain that looked like something from a fairy tale. A DJ played upbeat pop music from a booth near the pool, and a magician wandered through the crowd, pulling coins from behind children's ears. Leo stood at the edge of the patio, a paper plate in his hand, a slice of cake growing stale on it. He was wearing a navy blue blazer that his father had insisted on. "You're 14 now, Leo. Time to dress like a young man," and shoes that pinched his toes. The other kids from his private school were there, laughing, throwing footballs, posting videos on social media. They had been invited because Richard wanted witnesses, because Richard wanted the world to see what a wonderful father he was. Leo didn't feel wonderful. He felt hollow. Every birthday was the same. The party, the presents, the performance. Richard would clap him on the shoulder, introduce him to business associates as my boy, my pride and joy, and then disappear to make phone calls or schmooze with the adults. Leo would wander through the crowd like a ghost, smiling when expected, thanking people for gifts he didn't want, counting the minutes until he could escape to his room. This year, the gifts were excessive. A new laptop, a designer watch, a weekend trip to a mountain resort that Richard would probably cancel at the last minute. Leo said thank you. He smiled. He performed, but his mind was elsewhere. For weeks, he had been feeling restless, a strange, unnamed ache that he couldn't explain. It was there when he woke up in the morning, a heaviness in his chest. It was there when he went to bed at night, a whisper in the dark. He had dreamed about his mother recently. Not a nightmare, exactly. A memory. He was small, maybe 4 or 5, and she was reading him a story. Her voice was soft. She smelled like vanilla. He woke up reaching for someone who wasn't there. He had told his father about the dream. Richard's face had tightened, just for a moment, before smoothing into a reassuring smile. "It's normal to have dreams about the past, Leo, but you need to remember," she left. She chose to walk away. "You have me. You don't need her." Leo nodded. He always nodded, but the ache didn't go away. The party was winding down. The last of the guests were collecting their children and saying their goodbyes. Richard was in high spirits, laughing with a group of neighbors, accepting compliments on the decorations, the food, the music. He had a glass of red wine in one hand and a cup of coffee in the other, his third cup of the evening, because he needed the caffeine to maintain his energy. Leo was helping the catering staff clean up, mostly because it gave him something to do. He carried empty plates to the kitchen, stacked chairs, folded tablecloths. He was grateful for the mindless physical labor. It kept him from thinking. At some point, Richard excused himself from the neighbors and headed inside. He said something about checking on a work email, but Leo knew the truth. His father was tired of performing and wanted to sit in his office for a while, scrolling through his phone, pretending to be busy. Leo watched him go. He didn't follow. He never followed. The office was forbidden territory, a place Leo had been told, since childhood, contained sensitive financial documents and adult things that were none of his concern. The door was always locked. The cabinets were always locked. Even the windows had blinds that were kept drawn. Leo had never questioned this. His father was a wealthy man. Wealthy men had secrets. That was just the way of things. But 10 minutes later, Leo heard a crash. He ran inside, following the sound of the office. The door was ajar, unusual because it was always locked. He pushed it open and found his father standing over the desk, mopping at a spreading stain with a wad of paper towels. His coffee cup was on its side, the dark liquid pooling around a stack of documents, dripping onto the leather blotter. "Damn it," Richard muttered. "Damn it, damn it, damn it. Are you okay?" Leo asked. Richard looked up, startled. "Now, I didn't hear you come in." "Yes, I'm fine. Just clumsy." He grabbed more paper towels, but the stain was growing. "I need to get the good cleaner from the pantry. Don't touch anything. I'll be right back." He rushed out of the office, his footsteps fading down the hallway. Leo stood in the doorway, uncertain. He had never been in this room alone. It smelled like leather and cigar smoke and old paper. The walls were lined with books that looked like they had never been read. The desk was massive, dark wood, covered in neat stacks of documents. And in the corner, next to the fireplace, stood a heavy oak cabinet. The cabinet had 4 drawers, each with a brass lock. The keys, a small ring with 4 brass keys, were hanging from the lock of the bottom drawer. Richard had forgotten them. Leo's heart began to pound. He knew he should leave. He knew he should wait in the hallway, pretend he had never seen the keys, go back to the party, and forget this moment ever happened. But some strange, powerful curiosity kept him rooted to the spot. He thought about the dreams, the ache, the unanswered questions. He walked to the cabinet. The keys turned smoothly. The bottom drawer opened with a soft click. Leo expected to see files, tax returns, business contracts, the kinds of boring adult documents his father was always complaining about. Instead, he saw letters. Hundreds of letters. They were stacked in neat bundles, each bundle tied with a ribbon, each envelope facing the same direction. The envelopes were all the same size, standard white, the kind you could buy at any drugstore. The return address was the same on every single one. Clara Mitchell, followed by an address in a city Leo vaguely remembered from childhood. His mother's city. His hands were shaking. He pulled out the top bundle, untied the ribbon, and looked at the postmarks. They spanned years. The oldest was dated 7 years ago, just weeks after the move to Oregon. The newest was dated 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago. His mother had written him a letter 2 weeks ago, and his father had locked it in a cabinet. Leo opened the envelope. The paper inside was soft, slightly crinkled, as if it had been folded and unfolded many times. The handwriting was elegant, feminine, familiar in a way he couldn't explain. "My dearest Leo," it began, "happy 14th birthday. I miss you more with each passing year. Your father still won't let me speak to you, but I will never stop trying." Leo's breath caught in his throat. He read the letter once, then again, then a third time, his eyes devouring every word. "I remember your 4th birthday like it was yesterday. You wanted a dinosaur cake, so I spent 3 hours trying to make a stegosaurus out of buttercream frosting. It looked more like a lumpy green blob, but you loved it. You said it was the best cake in the whole world, and you kissed my cheek and told me I was the best mommy ever. I think about that day all the time. I think about your sticky fingers and your gap-toothed smile, and the way you insisted on wearing your dinosaur pajamas for a week straight. I wish I could be there to see you blow out your candles. I wish I could hug you and tell you how proud I am of the young man you're becoming. I wish I could watch you open your presents and pretend to be surprised even though I help pick them out. But I can't. Not yet. So I'm writing this letter instead, hoping that somehow, someday, it will find its way to you. I love you, Leo. I have never stopped loving you. I will never stop loving you, forever and always. Mommy." There was more. A postscript about the savings bond tucked inside. A small one, just $50, but sent with love. A note about the dog, Sonny, who was getting old and gray, but still slept on Leo's old pillow. A memory about the time Leo tried to teach himself to whistle and ended up making weird spitting noises for an hour. Leo read it all. Then he opened another letter, and another, and another. The 7-year archive. The letters painted a portrait of a mother he had been told had abandoned him. She wrote about his first steps, his first words, his first day of kindergarten. She wrote about the way he used to sing in the bathtub, off-key and happy. She wrote about the time he tried to rescue a caterpillar from the backyard and named it Mr. Wiggles. She wrote about the books they read together, the games they played, the quiet Sunday mornings when they would stay in their pajamas and watch cartoons until noon. She wrote about the separation, not with anger, but with sorrow. She explained that she had tried to call, but his father had blocked her number. She explained that she had sent gifts, but they had been returned. She explained that she had driven across 3 states to see him, only to be turned away by a security guard. "I don't want you to hate your father, Leo," she wrote in a letter dated 3 years ago. "He is your father, and I know he loves you in his own way. But I need you to know the truth. I never chose to leave you. I never stopped fighting for you. And I will never, ever give up on you." Leo read that letter 4 times. His face was wet. He didn't remember starting to cry. He opened the next bundle. These were birthday cards, each one containing a savings bond. The bonds were small, $50, $100, sometimes just 20, but they were consistent. Every birthday, every year, a gift from a mother who had been told she wasn't allowed to give anything. The cards were illustrated with cartoon animals and silly jokes. Inside, his mother had written the same thing every time. "Happy birthday, my precious boy. I love you more than words can say. This bond is for your future. I hope you'll use it for something wonderful." Leo thought about the birthday presents his father gave him. The laptop, the watch, the trip to the mountain resort. They were expensive, impressive, designed to be admired. But they felt hollow. They felt like performance. These cards, these small, handwritten cards with their modest savings bonds, felt like love. The footsteps. He heard his father's footsteps in the hallway. Leo's body moved before his mind caught up. He shoved the letters back into the drawer, pushed the drawer closed, and turned the key. The keys were still hanging from the lock. He grabbed them, pulled them free, and looked around frantically for somewhere to hide them. Too late. The door swung open. Richard stood in the doorway, a bottle of cleaning spray in one hand, a rag in the other. He looked at Leo. Leo looked at him. The keys were in Leo's hand. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Richard's eyes dropped to Leo's hand, to the keys, to the cabinet. His face, which had been flushed from the party, went pale. "Leo," he said slowly, "what are you doing in here?" Leo's voice came out steady, which surprised him. "I was looking for a phone charger." The door was open. The keys were in the drawer. Richard's jaw tightened. "You opened the cabinet." "Yes." "And what did you see?" Leo held up the envelope he was still clutching. The 14th birthday letter, crumpled now, smudged with tears. "I saw these. Mom's letters. All of them. You've been hiding them from me for 7 years." Richard set down the cleaning supplies. His expression shifted from surprise to calculation to something that looked almost like fear. "Leo, I can explain." "Explain what?" Leo's voice cracked. "Explain why you told me she abandoned me? Explain why you told me she chose her career over our family? Explain why you locked her letters in a cabinet so I would never know the truth." "Your mother is not stable," Richard said, stepping into the room. "She has issues. Emotional issues. I was protecting you." "Protecting me from what?" "From someone who loves me." Richard reached out, but Leo stepped back. "Leo, please. Let's sit down and talk about this calmly." "No." Leo's voice was louder now, shaking with a rage he had never felt before. "You lied to me. My whole life. You lied to me. She called, didn't she? She sent gifts. She drove here. You blocked her. You sent everything back. You made me believe she didn't want me. I did what I thought was best. You did what was best for you." Leo shouted. "You wanted me to myself. You didn't care what it did to me. You didn't care what it did to her." Richard's face hardened. The mask of the concerned father slipped, revealing something colder underneath. "You're 14 years old. You don't understand the complexities of adult relationships. Your mother and I had a difficult divorce. She made choices that hurt this family. I made choices to protect you from the fallout." "Protect me?" Leo held up the letter. "She's been writing to me every week for 7 years. 7 years. Do you know what that means? It means she never stopped loving me. It means you've been lying to me every single day." Richard took a step forward. "Give me the letter, Leo." "No, give it to me now." "No." Leo backed toward the door. "I'm keeping it. I'm keeping all of them, and I'm going to call her. I'm going to find her number, and I'm going to call her. I'm going to tell her that I know the truth." Richard's face went red. "You will do no such thing. I forbid it. You can't forbid it. I'm not a little kid anymore. You can't lock me in my room and pretend the outside world doesn't exist. Now, I hate you." The words came out flat, final. Leo didn't know he was going to say them until they were already in the air. "I hate you for what you did to her, and I hate you for what you did to me." He turned and ran. The aftermath. Leo didn't go back to the party. He ran to his room, slammed the door, and locked it. He sat on his bed, still holding the letter, and read it again. And again, and again. He thought about his mother. He tried to remember her face, her voice, her smell. The memories were faint, blurred by time, and by his father's constant rewriting of history. But they were there, underneath the lies, waiting to be uncovered. He thought about the letters. 80 of them, at least, maybe more. A decade of love, locked in a cabinet, hidden from him by the man who was supposed to protect him. He thought about the savings bonds, tucked into birthday cards, accumulating interest in a government account. Proof that someone had been thinking of him, saving for him, believing in him, even when he hadn't known it. He pulled out his phone. He searched for his mother's name. There were hundreds of Clara Mitchells, but one of them, lived in the city she had written on the return address. He found a phone number, a landline, probably old-fashioned, like her letters. His finger hovered over the call button. He was terrified. What if she didn't want to talk to him? What if his father was right about some of it? What if the letters were real, but the woman behind them was a stranger? But then he read the letter again. The part about the dinosaur cake, the lumpy green Stegosaurus, the sticky fingers, and the gap-toothed smile. He pressed call. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. Then a voice, soft, familiar, achingly familiar, answered. "Hello." Leo opened his mouth, but no words came out. Tears were streaming down his face. "Hello." The voice said again, more urgently. "Is someone there?" "Mom." Leo whispered. Silence. Then a sharp intake of breath. Then Leo? "Leo, is that really you?" "Yeah," he said, his voice breaking. "It's me. I found your letters. I know everything." And for the first time in 7 years, Clara Mitchell heard her son's voice. The office floor, 9:47 p.m. Leo sat on the hardwood floor, his back against the heavy oak cabinet, his legs stretched out in front of him. The cabinet drawers were open now, all 4 of them. The keys were still in his hand, the brass warm from his grip. Around him, scattered across the Persian rug like fallen leaves, were letters. Dozens of them. Hundreds, maybe. He had stopped counting after the 20th. His face was wet. His hands were shaking. His heart was pounding so hard he could feel it in his throat. The first letter had been a shock. The second had been a confirmation. The third had been a funeral. The death of everything his father had told him, everything he had believed, everything he had built his life around. "My dearest Leo, I miss you so much it feels like my heart is breaking into 1,000 pieces." That was the first line of the first letter, written 7 years ago when Leo was 7 years old. He had been a child then, a little boy who loved his mommy, who believed in superheroes, who thought his father could do no wrong. His father had done wrong. His father had done terrible, unforgivable wrong. Leo opened another letter. This one was from 6 years ago. His mother's handwriting had changed slightly, less shaky, more confident. She had been practicing, maybe she had just learned to write through tears. Dear Leo, today I saw a boy who looked just like you at the grocery store. He was about your age, with the same messy brown hair and the same gap in his front teeth. He was asking his mother for a candy bar, and she said no, and he made that face. You know, the face, the one where you scrunch up your nose and squint your eyes like you're trying to solve a very difficult math problem. I almost cried right there in the cereal aisle. I miss your face, Leo. I miss every single expression you ever made. Leo pressed the letter to his chest, as if he could absorb his mother's love through the paper. She had been thinking about him. She had been missing him. She had been seeing him in the faces of strangers, because she had no other way to see him at all. Another letter. 5 years ago. My sweet boy, I bet you're in 3rd grade now. I bet you're the smartest kid in your class, just like you were in kindergarten. I remember your teacher, Mrs. Alvarez, telling me that you were reading at a 2nd grade level when you were only 5. She said you had a gift. I told her you had a gift for everything. I wasn't wrong, was I? I wonder what you're learning. I wonder who your friends are. I wonder if you still like dinosaurs, or if you've moved on to space or robots, or whatever 3rd grade boys are into these days. I wonder if you ever think about me. I hope you do, but I also hope you're happy. That's the most important thing, Leo. I need you to be happy, even if I can't be there to see it. Leo had to stop reading for a moment. The tears were coming too fast, blurring the words, soaking the paper. He wiped his eyes with his sleeve and kept going. 4 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, the letters were a chronicle of love, a diary of longing, a map of a mother's heart laid bare on page after page after page. I'm saving up every penny to fight for you again in court one day, she wrote when Leo was 10. I don't know when that day will come, but it will come. And when it does, I will walk into that courtroom with my head held high, and I will tell the judge the truth, that I have never stopped loving you, that I have never stopped wanting you, that I have never stopped being your mother. She had been saving. She had been waiting. She had been planning. And all the while, his father had been lying. Your father still won't let me speak to you, she wrote when Leo was 11. But I will never stop trying. Every letter I send is a small act of hope. Maybe you'll never read these words. Maybe Richard will keep locking them away, and you'll grow up thinking I didn't care. But I need you to know, somewhere, in some part of you that remembers the sound of my voice, that I love you. I love you. I love you. Leo looked up at the cabinet. There were so many more letters, bundles and bundles of them, tied with ribbons, stacked in neat rows. She had written to him every week for 7 years. 364 letters, and his father had hidden every single one. He thought about the birthday cards, the savings bonds, the small, steady accumulation of a mother's devotion. She had been saving for his future, planning for his future, believing in his future, while his father had been building a prison of lies around him. He thought about the things his father had said. Your mother chose her career over you. She moved away because she didn't want the responsibility. If she really loved you, she would have found a way. Some people just aren't cut out to be parents. Lies. All lies. Every single one. Leo picked up another letter, then another, then another. He couldn't stop reading. He needed to know everything. He needed to fill in the gaps that his father had carved into his memory. He needed to replace the false story with the true one. His mother had not abandoned him. She had been stolen from him. And the thief was the man who called himself his father. The footsteps returned, 10:15 p.m. Leo heard the footsteps before he saw the shadow under the door. Heavy, deliberate, his father's walk. Richard had cleaned up the coffee spill, composed himself, and now he was coming back. Leo didn't try to hide the letters. He didn't try to close the drawers. He didn't try to wipe the tears from his face. He sat on the floor, surrounded by 7 years of proof, and waited. The door swung open. Richard stopped in the doorway. His eyes took in the scene. The open cabinet, the scattered letters, the pile of envelopes in Leo's lap. His face went through a series of rapid transformations. Surprise, then calculation, then a flash of something that looked almost like fear, then finally anger. What are you doing? Richard's voice was low, controlled, the voice of a man who was used to being in charge. I told you to stay out of this room. Leo didn't move. You lied to me. I told you. You lied to me. Leo's voice was quiet, but it cut through the room like a knife. About Mom. About everything. She didn't abandon me. She's been writing to me for 7 years. You've been hiding her letters. Richard stepped into the room, his shoes crunching on the scattered paper. Leo, you don't understand the situation. Your mother is not well. She has problems. Don't. Leo's voice broke. Don't you dare. I just read her letters. She's not crazy. She's not unstable. She's a mother who misses her son. Richard reached down and tried to snatch the letter from Leo's hand. Leo pulled it back, clutching it to his chest. Give me those letters, Richard said, his voice rising. They're not for you. They're evidence for my lawyer. Evidence of what? That she loves me, that she's obsessed, that she won't let go, that she's been harassing this family for years. She's been writing to her own son. Leo stood up, the letters pressed against his heart. He was taller than he had been a year ago, nearly as tall as his father now. He looked Richard in the eye and did not flinch. She has every right to write to me, and you had no right to hide these from me. Richard's face reddened. The mask of the reasonable father was gone now, replaced by something uglier. I had every right. I have sole custody. The court gave me sole custody because your mother is unfit. The court gave you custody because you had better lawyers. Leo shouted. She wrote about it. She explained everything. You used your money to steal me from her, and then you lied to me about it for 7 years. Richard lunged for the letters. Leo dodged, stepping back, nearly tripping over a bundle of envelopes on the floor. Richard grabbed his arm, his fingers digging into Leo's skin. Give them to me, Leo. Now. No, I said now. Richard tried to pry the letters from Leo's hands. Leo held on, twisting, struggling. The letters crumpled between them, the paper tearing. Leo could feel his father's breath on his face, hot and sharp, smelling like coffee and wine. Let go of me, Leo shouted. Not until you give me those letters. They struggled for a moment, a violent, desperate dance in the middle of the office. Then Leo broke free, stumbling backward, nearly falling. He caught himself on the edge of the desk and stood there, breathing hard, his eyes locked on his father's. Richard was breathing hard too. His shirt was untucked. His face was flushed. He looked nothing like the polished, perfect father who had been hosting a birthday party an hour ago. He looked like a cornered animal. You don't understand, Richard said, his voice almost pleading now. I was protecting you. Your mother, she's not stable. She would have filled your head with lies. She would have turned you against me. She didn't need to turn me against you, Leo said. You did that yourself. Richard's face crumpled. For a moment, Leo saw something that might have been guilt or sorrow or regret, but it passed quickly, replaced by anger. You're being dramatic, Richard said. You're 14 years old. You don't know what you're talking about. Your mother and I had a difficult marriage. She made choices. I made choices. Neither of us is perfect. You locked her letters in a cabinet. I was protecting you. You told me she abandoned me. I was protecting you. She wrote to me every week for 7 years. Leo's voice cracked, tears streaming down his face. Every single week, she sent me birthday cards with savings bonds. She drove across 3 states to see me, and you had a security guard turn her away. She never stopped fighting for me. And you, he choked on the words. You stole her from me. Richard took a step forward, his hand outstretched. Leo, please. Let's talk about this calmly. We can work this out. We can. No, Leo backed toward the door. We can't work this out. You've been lying to me my whole life. I don't even know who you are anymore. I'm your father. Leo laughed, a bitter, broken sound. My father? My father wouldn't have done this. My father wouldn't have taken away someone who loved me. My father wouldn't have made me believe I was unwanted. Richard's face hardened. I am your father, the only parent you have. Your mother abandoned you. She left. She moved away. She didn't fight hard enough. She did fight. Leo held up the crumpled letter in his hand. She fought every single day. She wrote these letters. She saved her money. She planned for the future. She never gave up on me. You're the one who gave up. You gave up on her. You gave up on the truth. You gave up on being a good person. Richard's eyes blazed. You don't talk to me like that. I'll talk to you however I want. Leo's voice was steady now, cold in a way that surprised him. You're not in charge of me anymore. Not after this. He walked to the cabinet, bent down, and gathered as many letters as he could carry. Bundles of them, tied with ribbons. Envelopes of every size and color. 7 years of love, finally in his hands. What are you doing? Richard demanded. I'm taking these. They're mine. She wrote them to me. You can't. I can. Leo walked to the door, the letters pressed against his chest. And I'm going to read every single one. And then I'm going to call her. And I'm going to tell her that I know the truth. And I'm going to find a way to see her. And there's nothing you can do to stop me. Richard stood in the middle of the office, his hands clenched at his sides. His face was a storm of emotions. Anger, fear, something that looked almost like grief. If you walk out that door, Leo, there will be consequences. What consequences? You'll take away my phone? Ground me? Lock me in my room? Leo shook his head. I don't care anymore. You've already taken away the most important thing. You took away my mother. Nothing else matters. He turned and walked out of the office. The rain. The party was over. The backyard was empty, the string lights still glowing, the catering staff packing up their equipment. The rain had started, a soft, steady drizzle that had been falling for the past hour, unnoticed by the guests who had taken shelter inside. Leo didn't put on a jacket. He didn't grab an umbrella. He walked through the back door, down the steps, and into the rain, the letters clutched against his chest. The cold water soaked through his shirt, his hair, his skin. He didn't feel it. He felt nothing except the weight of the letters in his arms and the hollow hollow ache in his chest. He walked to the end of the driveway, then to the sidewalk, then to the street. He didn't know where he was going. He didn't care. He just needed to get away from that house, that office, that man. His father, if he could even call him that anymore, had stolen 7 years of his life. 7 years of birthday cards, phone calls, visits, hugs. 7 years of knowing that someone loved him, that someone was fighting for him, that someone had never given up. Leo stopped under a streetlight, the rain falling around him, and looked down at the letters. The top envelope was smudged and crumpled, but he could still read the return address. His mother's name, his mother's city, his mother's love, written in ink and sealed with a kiss. He pulled out his phone. The screen was wet, but it still worked. He searched for her number, the one he had found earlier, the landline in the city she had called home for 7 years. His thumb hovered over the call button. He was terrified. What if she didn't answer? What if she had given up? What if the letters were real, but the woman behind them was a stranger? But then he thought about the dinosaur cake, the lumpy green stegosaurus, the sticky fingers, and the gap-toothed smile. He pressed call. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. Then a voice, soft, familiar, achingly familiar, answered. Hello. Leo opened his mouth, but no words came out. Tears were streaming down his face, mixing with the rain. Hello? The voice said again, more urgently. Is someone there? Mom, Leo whispered. Silence. Then a sharp intake of breath. Then Leo? Leo, is that really you? Yeah, he said, his voice breaking. It's me. I found your letters. I know everything. And for the first time in 7 years, Clara Mitchell heard her son's voice. The bus station, 6 a.m. Leo had not slept. After the confrontation, after the rain, after the phone call that had lasted 3 hours and ended only when his phone battery died, he had walked to the all-night diner on the corner of Maple Street. He had ordered a cup of coffee he didn't drink and sat in a booth, surrounded by letters, reading by the light of a flickering fluorescent bulb. His mother's voice was still in his ears. Leo, please be safe. Please don't do anything reckless. I can't lose you again. But he had already made up his mind. They held each other on the cold, wet doorstep, the rain soaking through their clothes, and they cried. They cried for the 7 years they had lost. They cried for the birthdays and holidays and ordinary Tuesday afternoons that could never be recovered. They cried for the letters that had been hidden, the phone calls that had been blocked, the love that had been stolen. But they also cried for this moment, this impossible, miraculous, long-awaited moment when they finally found their way back to each other. I'm sorry, Leo sobbed in her shoulder. I'm sorry I believed him. I'm sorry I stopped fighting. I'm sorry I didn't find the letters sooner. Shoot, Clara said, stroking his hair, just like she used to do when he was small. You have nothing to be sorry for. You were a child. You were just a child. This was never your fault. He said you didn't want me. He said you chose your career over me. He said you moved away because you didn't care. I know, Clara whispered. I know, but it wasn't true. None of it was true. I never stopped wanting you. I never stopped fighting for you. I never stopped loving you. Not for one single second. Leo pulled back, looking at her face. His eyes were red, his cheeks wet, his nose running. He looked young and old at the same time. A child who had been forced to grow up too fast. A teenager who was still trying to understand the world. I read your letters, he said. All of them. Every word. You did. He nodded, holding up the stack. I brought them with me. I wanted you to know that they made it. That I finally got them. That I finally understand. Clara laughed through her tears. I never thought you would read them. I never thought Richard would let them through. I just kept writing because I couldn't stop. Because writing to you was the only thing that kept me sane. I'm here now, Leo said. I'm really here. You're really here, Clara repeated, as if saying it aloud would make it true. My baby, my big, tall, beautiful baby. Leo smiled, a small, watery smile that reminded her so much of the little boy who used to sing in the bathtub that her heart ached. I'm not a baby anymore. You'll always be my baby, Clara said, no matter how tall you get, no matter how deep your voice gets. You will always, always be my baby. She stood up, pulling him with her, and guided him inside. The door closed behind them, shutting out the rain and the dark and the world that had kept them apart for so long. The night. Clara's apartment was small, but it was warm. The living room was cluttered with books and plants and photographs. Photographs of Leo, mostly scattered on every surface. The couch was soft and worn, the kind of couch that had been sat on for years, shaped by the bodies of people who had nowhere else to go. Leo stood in the middle of the room, looking around. He saw the photograph on the wall, a picture of him at 5 years old, wearing his Superman costume, cape flapping in the wind. He saw the bookshelf filled with children's books, the one she used to read to him at bedtime. He saw the small, well-worn stuffed elephant on the arm of the couch, its trunk frayed, one eye missing. You kept it, he said, picking up the elephant. I never could throw it away, Clara said. It still smells like you. Or maybe I just imagined that it does. Leo hugged the elephant to his chest. I thought you had forgotten about me. Never, Clara said. Not for one single moment. They sat on the couch, side by side, the letters spread out on the coffee table between them. Leo talked. He told her about his life, the school, the friends he didn't have, the piano lessons he hated, the soccer games his father never attended. He told her about the dreams he had been having lately, dreams of her voice, her face, her smell. Clara listened. She didn't interrupt. She didn't cry, not this time. She just listened, soaking in every word, memorizing every detail, filling in the gaps of the 7 years she had missed. When Leo finished talking, Clara talked. She told him about her job, her apartment, her dog Sonny, who was sleeping in the corner, too old and tired to greet the visitor. She told him about the therapy, the antidepressants, the long, dark nights when she didn't think she could go on. She told him about the letters, how she had written them every Sunday, without fail, even when she knew they would probably never be read. I kept writing because I had to believe, she said. I had to believe that someday, somehow, you would find out the truth. I had to believe that love was stronger than lies. Leo reached over and took her hand. His hand was larger than hers now, the hand of a young man, but it fit perfectly in her palm. Love is stronger, he said. I know that now. They talked until the sun came up. They talked about the past, the present, the future. They talked about the things they had lost and the things they had found. They talked about forgiveness, not for Richard, not yet, but for themselves. For the guilt they had both carried, the blame they had both accepted, the wounds they had both tried to hide. And when the morning light streamed through the window, painting the room in shades of gold and pink, Leo leaned his head on his mother's shoulder and closed his eyes. I'm so tired, Mom, he whispered. Then sleep, Clara said, wrapping her arm around him. I'll be here when you wake up. I'll always be here now. Leo smiled, his eyes already closing, his breathing already slowing. Promise. Promise, Clara said. And for the first time in 7 years, both of them slept peacefully, knowing that the other was just an arm's length away. The morning after, 7 a.m., sunlight streamed through Clara's thin curtains, painting golden stripes across the worn carpet. Leo was still asleep on the couch, his long legs dangling over the armrest, one hand clutching the stuffed elephant, the other resting on the stack of letters he had carried across 3 states. His face was peaceful, younger in sleep, free from the anger and hurt that had marked it the night before. Clara sat in the armchair across from him, a cup of cold coffee in her hands, watching him breathe. She had not slept. She had been too afraid that if she closed her eyes, she would wake up and find him gone. The reunion, just another cruel dream. But he was real. He was here, and she was not going to let anyone take him away again. Her phone buzzed on the table. She picked it up and saw a name she had not expected to see so early on a Sunday morning. Sophia Chun. Clara had hired Sophia years ago during the first custody battle, but the retainer had run out and the case had gone cold. She had not spoken to the attorney in months. Sophia, Clara answered, her voice hushed so she wouldn't wake Leo. Clara, I need you to listen carefully. Sophia's voice was sharp, urgent. Richard called the police an hour ago. He's filing a report for parental kidnapping. He's claiming that you took Leo without his consent. Clara's blood turned to ice. He came to me, Sophia. He bought a bus ticket himself. I didn't. I would never. I know. I believe you. But we need to move fast. Richard has already contacted the Oak Haven Police Department and the district attorney's office in Oregon. They're going to want to question Leo. If they take him back to Oregon before we can file anything, we lose all momentum. What do I do? Stay where you are. Don't let anyone take Leo without a warrant. I'm filing an emergency motion for custody modification first thing tomorrow morning. But I need you to do something for me right now. Anything. Go to the post office. Get certified copies of every single certified mail receipt you have for the letters you sent. Everyone. We need to prove that Richard received them and willfully withheld them from Leo. Clara looked at the stack of letters on the coffee table, the ones Leo had brought with him, the ones Richard had locked away. I have more than receipts, Sophia. Leo found the letters. He brought them with him, 80 of them, at least, all unopened until last night. There was a pause on the other end of the line. Then Sophia laughed, a short, sharp sound of pure, professional satisfaction. He brought the letters? The actual letters that Richard hid. Yes. Clara, do you understand what you just handed me? That's not just evidence. That's a nuclear weapon. Parental alienation, emotional abuse, obstruction of communication. Richard is going to prison for this. Or he should be. I don't want him to go to prison, Clara said quietly. I just want my son. You'll get him. I promise you that. Now go. Get those receipts. I'll call you when the court date is set. Clara hung up and looked at Leo. He was still sleeping, still holding the elephant, still clutching the letters. She didn't want to wake him. He needed rest. He needed peace. But first, he needed to know that his father was coming for them. She reached over and touched his shoulder gently. Now, wake up. His eyes fluttered open. For a moment, he looked confused, lost in the space between dreaming and waking, unsure where he was. Then he saw Clara's face, and he smiled. A real smile, warm and unguarded. "Hey, Mom. Hey, baby." She stroked his hair. "We have a problem. Your father called the police. He's saying I kidnapped you." Leo sat up, the sleep falling away from his face. "That's a lie. I came here on my own. I bought the ticket. I walked to the bus station. He didn't even know I was gone until I was already on the road." "I know, but we need to prove it. We're going to have to go to court. A judge is going to ask you where you want to live." Leo looked at the letters, then at the elephant, then at Clara. "I want to live here, with you." Clara's eyes filled with tears. "Are you sure? It's not a big place. I don't have a lot of money. Your father's house is. I don't care about his house." Leo's voice was firm, certain. "I care about the truth. And the truth is that he lied to me for 7 years. He stole you from me. I don't want to live with a liar." Clara pulled him into a hug, holding him tight. "Then we fight. Together." "Together," Leo repeated. The emergency hearing 3 days later. The courtroom was the same one where Clara had lost custody 7 years ago. The same dark wood, the same high ceilings, the same cold, unforgiving light. But everything else was different. Clara was not the broken, sobbing woman she had been then. She sat at the petitioner's table with her back straight and her head high. Sophia, chunned beside her, a cardboard box full of letters at her feet. Leo sat in the gallery, 2 rows behind her, flanked by a court-appointed guardian ad litem, a woman named Dr. Patricia Okonkwo, a child psychologist who had interviewed Leo for 3 hours the day before. Dr. Okonkwo had been given access to the letters, the certified mail receipts, and Richard's own testimony. Her report was already on the judge's bench. Richard sat at the respondent's table, flanked by 2 attorneys, not the 3 he had employed 7 years ago, but 2. His empire was shrinking. His reputation was crumbling, and his face, once so confident, was pale and tight with barely suppressed panic. Judge Eleanor Vance presided. She had aged in the 7 years since Clara had last stood before her, more gray in her hair, deeper lines around her eyes, but her expression was as unreadable as ever. "This is an emergency hearing regarding the temporary custody of Leo Barrington, age 14, the clerk announced. The petitioner, Clara Mitchell, seeks immediate modification of the existing custody order. The respondent, Richard Barrington III, opposes and has filed a counterclaim alleging parental kidnapping." Judge Vance looked over her glasses at both parties. "I have read the emergency motion, the response, and the guardian ad litem's report. I have also reviewed the evidence submitted by Ms. Mitchell's counsel, including approximately 80 unopened letters mailed to the respondent's address over a period of 7 years, all bearing the respondent's signature on certified mail receipts." She paused, letting the weight of her words settle. "Mr. Barrington, do you deny that you received these letters?" Richard's lawyer, Harold Finch, stood up. "Your Honor, my client does not deny receiving the letters. However, he maintains that they were not in Leo's best interest. Ms. Mitchell has a history of emotional instability, and my client was acting to protect his son from potential harm." "Protect him from what exactly?" Judge Vance's voice was cold. "From knowing that his mother loved him? From receiving birthday cards and savings bonds? From reading words that any child would be blessed to receive?" Finch shifted his weight. "The content of the letters is not the issue, Your Honor. The issue is that Ms. Mitchell was not granted unsupervised communication with the child. My client was within his legal rights to screen correspondence." Sophia Chin stood up. "Your Honor, the original custody order granted Ms. Mitchell supervised visitation to be arranged at the father's discretion. It did not grant Mr. Barrington the right to intercept and permanently withhold written correspondence. In fact, the order explicitly stated that neither parent shall interfere with the other parent's reasonable attempts to communicate with the child. Mr. Barrington did not just interfere. He erased 7 years of his son's mother's love." She walked to the evidence table and held up one of the letters. The birthday card from Leo's 8th birthday, still in its original envelope. "This letter contains a savings bond. A small one, just $50. Ms. Mitchell saved for months to buy that bond. She wanted Leo to have something for his future. Mr. Barrington locked it in a cabinet." She held up another. "This one contains a photograph of Ms. Mitchell and Leo at his 5th birthday party. He is wearing a paper crown and smiling." Mr. Barrington locked it in a cabinet. She held up a third. "This one is a letter Ms. Mitchell wrote after Leo's first day of 3rd grade. She didn't know what school he was attending, so she imagined it. She described the classroom, the teacher, the other children. She filled in the gaps of his life with love and hope. Mr. Barrington locked it in a cabinet. Sophia placed the letters on the judge's bench. Your Honor, this is not screening. This is not protection. This is parental alienation. This is emotional abuse. And it has gone on for 7 years. Judge Vance picked up one of the letters, opened it, and read silently. Her expression did not change, but her knuckles whitened around the paper. Mr. Finch, she said, your client's explanation? Finch glanced at Richard, who was staring at the table. My client maintains that he was acting in Leo's best interest. He believed that Ms. Mitchell's letters would confuse and upset the child. He was trying to provide stability. Stability? Judge Vance's voice rose. He provided lies. He told Leo that his mother abandoned him. He told Leo that she didn't care. He erased her from the child's life completely. And now we have a 14-year-old boy who just discovered that everything he believed about his mother was a fabrication. She turned to Dr. Okonkwo. Doctor, your report, please. Dr. Okonkwo stood. She was a tall woman with kind eyes and a gentle voice. Your Honor, I interviewed Leo for over 3 hours yesterday. I also reviewed the letters, the certified mail receipts, and Mr. Barrington's testimony. In my professional opinion, Leo has been the victim of severe parental alienation. He was deliberately and systematically misled about his mother's character, her love for him, and her efforts to maintain a relationship. The psychological damage from this deception is significant, but Leo is remarkably resilient. He has already begun to form a healthy attachment to his mother during their brief time together. What do you recommend for custody? Leo is 14 years old. He is mature, articulate, and capable of expressing his own preferences. He has stated clearly, consistently, and convincingly that he wishes to live with his mother. I support that preference. I also recommend that Mr. Barrington undergo a psychological evaluation and that any future visitation be supervised until he demonstrates a genuine commitment to supporting Leo's relationship with both parents. Richard's chair scraped against the floor as he stood up. This is absurd. I have been Leo's primary parent for 7 years. I have provided him with everything, education, opportunities, a stable home. She, he pointed at Clara, abandoned him. She moved away. She didn't fight. Judge Vance's gavel cracked against the bench. Sit down, Mr. Barrington, or I will have you removed from this courtroom. Richard sat, his face red, his fists clenched. Judge Vance turned to Leo, who was still sitting in the gallery. Leo, I know this is difficult, but I would like to hear from you directly. Do you understand that whatever you say here could affect where you live? Leo stood up. His voice was steady. Yes, Your Honor. And do you understand that you have the right to remain silent and let your guardian ad litem speak for you? I understand, but I want to speak for myself. The judge nodded. Go ahead. Leo walked to the front of the courtroom, stopping a few feet from the bench. He did not look at his father. He looked only at the judge. For 7 years, my father told me that my mother abandoned me. He said she chose her career over me. He said she moved away because she didn't want to be a parent. I believed him. Why wouldn't I? He was my father. He was supposed to protect me. He took a breath. But last week, I found her letters. 80 of them. Every single one addressed to me. Every single one signed with love. And I realized that everything my father told me was a lie. She didn't abandon me. He stole me from her. His voice cracked, but he kept going. I don't want to live with a liar. I don't want to live with someone who could do that to his own son, to his own ex-wife, to his own family. I want to live with my mother. She never stopped loving me. She never stopped fighting for me. She never stopped being my mom. He turned to Clara. She's the only parent I have now. The courtroom was silent. Clara was crying silently, tears streaming down her face. Richard's face was ashen. Harold Finch was already packing his briefcase, knowing how this would end. Judge Vance removed her glasses and rubbed her eyes. Mr. Barrington, I have been a judge for 23 years. I have seen parents do terrible things to each other and to their children in the name of winning. But I have rarely seen a case as clear-cut as this one. You systematically alienated your son from his mother. You withheld 7 years of love letters, birthday cards, and savings bonds. You lied to him about her efforts to contact him. You used the court system as a weapon. She picked up the stack of letters. These letters are not evidence of a crazy, unstable woman. They are evidence of a mother who refused to give up on her child, no matter how many times you slammed the door at her face. They are evidence of love. And love, Mr. Barrington, is not a crime. But what you did, that is a crime. It is emotional abuse. It is parental alienation. And it ends today. She read her ruling. Sole legal and physical custody of Leo Barrington is hereby granted to the petitioner, Clara Mitchell. The respondent, Richard Barrington III, is granted supervised visitation to be arranged through a court-approved visitation center at his own expense. He is ordered to pay back child support for the past 7 years, calculated at the state standard plus interest. He is ordered to pay Ms. Mitchell's legal fees and court costs in their entirety. And he is ordered to undergo a psychological evaluation before any unsupervised contact with Leo will be considered. She banged her gavel. Court is adjourned. The aftermath. Richard did not appeal. His lawyers advised against it. The evidence was too strong. The judge's ruling too clear. He paid the back child support, a sum that ran into the tens of thousands, and he paid Clara's legal fees. He attended his psychological evaluation, though the results were sealed, and he visited Leo at the supervised visitation center once a month, sitting in a sterile room with a court employee watching every word, every gesture. Leo went because he had to, but he didn't speak much. He answered questions with one-word responses. He stared out the window. He counted the minutes until he could leave. Richard tried to apologize. "I did what I thought was best, Leo. I was wrong. I am sorry." Leo looked at him with cold, empty eyes. "You were wrong about a lot of things, but sorry isn't enough. Sorry doesn't give me back 7 years." The visits became shorter, then less frequent. Then, eventually they stopped altogether. Richard stopped showing up. Leo didn't ask why. Word spread through Richard's social circle. The country club, the investment groups, the private school parents, they all heard about the letters, the cabinet, the judge's ruling. Some of them defended Richard, claiming he had been overprotective. Most of them distanced themselves quietly. No one wanted to associate with a man who had stolen a child's mother through lies and legal tricks. Richard sold his Oregon estate and moved to a smaller house in a less prestigious neighborhood. His second wife, Vanessa, left him within a year. He told people he was taking a break from society. The truth was that society had taken a break from him. The new life. Clara's apartment was too small for 2 people. She knew that, but it was temporary, a way station, a starting point. She found a larger place 3 weeks after the custody ruling, a 2-bedroom house with a small backyard and a porch swing. It was modest, nothing like Richard's estate, but it was theirs. Leo's room faced east toward the sunrise. Clara painted the walls a soft blue, his favorite color, and hung photographs of them together. Old pictures from before the divorce, new pictures from their first weeks together. The stuffed elephant sat on his pillow. The letters were in a box under his bed, safe, no longer hidden. Leo enrolled in the local high school. It was smaller than his private academy, less prestigious, but the teachers were kind and the other kids didn't care about his past. He made friends, real friends, the kind who invited him to birthday parties and asked about his day. He joined the soccer team. He started playing guitar. Clara watched him flourish, and her heart swelled with a joy she had forgotten she was capable of feeling. The final scene, 6 months later. The kitchen was warm and bright, the morning sun streaming through the window. Clara stood at the stove, flipping pancakes, while Leo sat at the small kitchen table, scrolling through his phone and stealing pieces of bacon from the plate in front of him. "Stop stealing the bacon," Clara said without turning around. "I'm not stealing. I'm taste testing. It's a quality control issue. You're a quality control issue." Leo grinned. It was a real grin, easy and natural. The grin of a boy who felt safe, who felt loved, who felt at home. Clara brought the pancakes to the table and sat down across from him. They ate together, talking about nothing and everything: school, soccer, the movie they were going to watch that night, the garden Clara wanted to plant in the backyard. At one point, Leo looked up from his plate and said, "Mom, yeah, baby, I'm glad I found the letters." Clara set down her fork. "Me too. I'm glad I came here. I'm glad I'm with you." She reached across the table and took his hand. "I'm glad too." Every single day. They finished breakfast, washed the dishes together, and stood at the sink, looking out the window at the small backyard. The grass was green. The birds were singing. The world was full of ordinary, beautiful, peaceful moments. The shadow of the past was still there. It would always be there, a scar on their hearts, a reminder of what they had lost and what they had survived. But it was just a shadow now. It no longer controlled them. It no longer defined them. Clara put her arm around Leo's shoulders, and he leaned his head against hers, just like he used to do when he was small. "I love you, Mom," he said. "I love you too, Leo, forever and always." Outside, the sun rose higher, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. A new day, a new beginning, a life rebuilt from the ashes of lies and loss, stronger and more beautiful than before. They had found each other, and nothing would ever tear them apart again.